Killian Hayes, born July 27th, 2001, in Florida, but then quickly moved to France and now finds himself playing professionally at just 18 years old for the German team Ulm. Probably butchering that. Now, these are reported measurements. The eye test suggests, and I've heard rumors that he has around a 7-foot wingspan. He's definitely at least 200 pounds. He's a solid kid, big frame, and his last official height measurement was 6'4.5" in shoes at 15 years old. Now, before I get into his on-court play, I want to give you a little background because he has a unique one. Dare I say, a Kobe-like background. Killian's father, Duran, played one season at Penn State in 89-90. Sniffed around the league, and then eventually found himself going overseas where he would travel around and have a very long, successful career, eventually settling down in France, where he eventually met Killian's mother. But here's what makes Killian's story very unique. He has influences from both the American and European style of play. Check this out. One day when Killian was around 4, he told his dad he wanted to show him something, and he did a reverse dunk on the basketball hoop in their backyard. I was like, where the hell did that come from, Darren says. That sort of thing would happen all the time. We'd be doing a drill, and all of a sudden he'd announce spin move, and I hadn't even taught him that word in English. For Killian, basketball was what bridged his two worlds. He'd spend the school year in France playing with kids 1 or 2 divisions ahead of his age group, and he'd spend his summers in Florida learning American slang and American moves in pickup basketball courts. I feel like I'm from both places, Killian says. I try to bring the best of America and the best of France with me when I'm on the court. So off jump, you can see why the NBA and scouting world would take notice. The pedigree, the structure, and the opportunity. This is Alchemy's analysis, NBA Draft 2020, Killian Hayes. When you see the lefty shoot, he immediately passes the eye test. He's got a quick, compact, high-arcing shot that appears to have very soft touch. He does have a low release, but he has shown the ability to change that release point depending on where he is on the floor. In the mid-range or moving downhill, he will hire that set point to get it off over a defender. That's important for a young shooter to have that dynamic shooting range, and that's perhaps why he shoots best in the mid-range. Here's the thing, the eye test is one thing, the numbers are another. Just 28% from three-point range, and that's climbed up throughout the season. It started off even worse. But when I dove into his games, the context behind these numbers is he very rarely takes an open shot or even a good shot from behind the arc. Let's take a look. A lot of them are at the end of the shot clock where the offense is sputtered out and he's forced to bail them out with a tough contested perimeter shot. You're also going to notice that his patented side step to the right shot is always contested, and he doesn't create a ton of separation with it. And so he tends to hop into his shots rather than step into them, and that can lead to him being off balance. The good thing is up top with his release looks straight and very consistent. And then being 18 years old, sometimes he's just going to take bad shots. I think the EuroLeague style, or at least his team's construction, is when he passes it into the big, there's very little inside out scoring. Once the big touches the ball, the shot's going up. So very rarely did I ever see him get catch and shoot opportunities, let alone open looks. I've heard people make the assumption that when he's wide open and playing off the ball, he'll knock his shots down, but that's easier said than done. If you consider the way his skills have been nurtured, he's been on the ball, he's been a point guard his whole life. So to play off the ball and find a rhythm, catch and shoot is not something that you can assume he'll automatically adjust to being able to do. But again, the eye test and mechanics suggest that eventually he will become a very good shooter. The buzzword amongst scouts is live passing, essentially meaning a guy's ability to pass off the dribble or at any moment improvise with a pass. Killian is a very good live passer. Most people consider he and LaMelo the top passers in this class, LaMelo's the much more flashy player, and so that's what sticks out, and people are going to say he's the best passer, but that's not necessarily the case. Killian, I think, has the same vision and passing ability, but he's much more risk averse. What's arguably his most impressive trait, though, at just 18 years old, is his ability to play in pick and rolls. It's just like if you're looking for a good quarterback, what's important? Can he read the field, and can he go through his progressions and reads quickly and efficiently? Killian can not only do that, but he also has the ability to look the safeties off and look the defense off, right? He sees the roll, he sees the weak side corner, he reads the help, and he can look them off and get the ball, the guy on time and in pocket. You can see the European style in his game where he quickly gets his head up and moves the ball. He doesn't over dribble the ball. Where he does get in trouble, though, is very rarely is a pass inaccurate from what I've seen. It's that he becomes too predictable in the sense of he doesn't keep the defense honest with his own offense. So the weak side defense is sitting on that pass knowing he's not shooting that ball. The lefty is a lefty. And that's probably the most glaring thing about his game right now is he does not go right. And he doesn't, frankly, pass out of the right hand much either. Probably because he's never looking to get downhill when he has the ball in the right hand. It's usually a hang dribble, and then you could bet the bank that it's going to be a sidestep to the right to get the shot off. But overall, you consider his 6'5", 200-pound frame, and he's got good enough handle at this point. In the Euro League, there's a lot of small guards who pick up ball pressure. He's accustomed to being pressured all up and down the court, and he changes directions, but he doesn't create a ton of separation. He protects the ball. It's more of a change of direction to get an angle, and then again, to use hesitation and timing. I suspect he may have more in the bag than he's showing. But you look at the European style of play, it's much more structured and disciplined with the coach calling out sets, and then going up against zones can neutralize a lot of that creativity at times. But again, I go back to mentality. I don't think he feels the need to show out. He's more about making the efficient play. This is where I think he'll struggle most adapting to the NBA game. Not only are you dealing with much bigger and longer athletes, but you just watch, again, he has no right hand, and he very rarely looks to get all the way to the rim. When he's moving downhill, and at any sign of resistance, he's just too quick to pass the ball off rather than try to draw the contact or finish through it. He also seems to have a tendency to pick the ball up too quickly rather than splitting or one extra dribble to try to get, again, deeper into the paint. Part of that may be the European whistle or lack thereof, and a lot of zone defenses. His saving grace, though, it has to be his touch. Like most good European style guards, he has a float game all the way out to the free throw line. And perhaps that's why he doesn't look to get to the rim, because he's so comfortable shooting that floater. I think he's going to get his shot blocked a lot his first few seasons in the NBA. My concern would be that given that he's such a good passer anyway, that he would just stop looking to finish altogether. I've talked about Euro style of ball. One thing that he hasn't adapted is the flop mechanism, and maybe he'll have to when he's around bigger, stronger athletes, but he doesn't draw very many fouls. Again, a lot of that is the floater game and not trying to get all the way to the rim, but that would be a way to become an efficient player in the paint in the NBA, because he's not going to play above the rim. He just doesn't have that type of bounce. He's got good length, and you may see him get a dunk in transition here or there, but in the half court, expect him to be below the rim. What I think you hang your hat on is that touch, because that's not something you can teach, and he's shown that ability. The craftiness, the ability to get to the line, that can all obviously be learned as he matures. This was the area of his game that surprised me most. Before I did this, I had seen some highlights on YouTube. And to be honest with you, maybe it was the James Harden sidestep that led me to believe, I don't know about this dude playing defense. I think also it was just his profile, his makeup that made me think, he's probably more of an offensive player. But I was glad to be wrong. I had already mentioned the great hands. To go along with that, he's got great anticipation and instincts. What NBA teams are really going to like is his ability to fight over and through screens and stay attached. Now, he did play quite a bit of zone this season, and he was afforded the luxury of kind of hiding low in those zones, probably because he doesn't have the greatest lateral quickness. There's a lot of short, quick guards in this Euro League, but I think that he can make up for it with his competitive spirit and length. Whenever he was on ball, he just showed a sense of pride that leads me to believe that he could become a solid defender. Will he become the guy that you put on to lock someone down? No. But I don't think he's going to get picked on either. Size, IQ, and competitive spirit should allow him to stay on the floor even in his first few seasons. Look, to me, Killian Hayes is a point guard, and to get the best out of him, you're going to need him to be on the ball. Now, at just 18, you take into account his natural feel for the game, and I don't see why at some point he can't be effective both on and off ball. But like most of these prospects, the shot is going to determine so much of their future success. Again, eye test. Consistent form, compact, quick release. He could stand to raise the set point and probably stick more of his follow-throughs. But I think the consensus is, with better shot selection and more open shots, he projects out to be a good shooter. But ultimately, what I see is dimes over buckets. And what that means is a player who enjoys the assist more than the bucket. I think when he's at his best, it's in transition. He's got an elite change of pace, particularly in the open court. I also think teams are going to like his no-nonsense mentality on the court. And of course, the interesting upbringing we already touched on, the pedigree with shades of Kobe. But that's not the only thing I saw that he shared with Kobe. I noticed late in games, a lot of the time, mind you, being the youngest player on the floor, that didn't stop him from trying to take over. He seemed to elevate his play and come up with big plays late in close games, which his team played a lot of. He appears to have the clutch gene.
85%. Heute 2 von 2. Was ganz, ganz wichtig wird für die Ulmer, also ganz wichtig, wenn Hayes den zweiten verwandelt, aufpassen auf diese ganz langen Dinger, diese Pässe von Vidraitis, diese unfassbar zügigen Einwurfkonstellation der Berliner. Und der Pass.
My NBA comp is Lonzo Ball mixed with D'Angelo Russell. He's more Lonzo in mentality and D'Lo in skill set. He may not ever be the shooter or have the creativity of a D'Angelo, but he's already much more of a willing and prideful defender. And he's not the athlete Lonzo is, and because of that, he'll not be that caliber of defender. But his shot and shot making is way ahead of Lonzo's. What he shares with both of them is elite vision and the willingness to make those passes, along with good size for the combo lead guard position. I think Killian could go top 5. I think he will go top 10. A team should be able to plug him in right away as a third guard if you consider his international experience. And then with the hope of, at some point down the line, he could possibly turn into that lead guard for that franchise. At 18, with his build, no doubt there's some untapped athleticism. But with that said, I think ultimately most teams will place his ceiling lower than the elite athletes in his class. But his floor is probably also much higher. Today's game has never been more about skill and positional value. That's why Killian may find himself a top 5 pick. Now, obviously, this is going to be an unprecedented draft process. So the teams that haven't done their homework early may not be comfortable taking him. But a big lead guard with professional pedigree, international experience, he won't get past the 10th pick.
So long as like alchemy.